After 100 encounters, I discovered the heavenly loyalty that was revealed in 12 miraculous women in a village where the sun dipped low over rolling hills. Mary, a devoted single mother, knelt before the altar of Saint Therese. Her heart ached, heavy with the weight of financial struggles and the harsh whispers of her neighbors. Yet, every vibrant Sunday her faith flourished at the local church. There, she found solace among the congregation, a community that adored her quiet resilience. She had prayed countless times, seeking guidance and strength, but the doubts crept in like shadows. Just when the darkness seemed overwhelming, Mary stumbled upon 12 remarkable women, each one a living testament to the miraculous point. One evening, as golden waves of sunset painted her home, the first encounter shifted her spirit. Violet, a woman paralyzed for years, suddenly rose from her wheelchair, laughter spilling from her lips like sweet honey as she danced in the church. A gasp from the crowd echoed through the nave, as though heaven itself had descended. Mary's heart fluttered. How could one woman's pain turn so swiftly into joy? Surely, this is a miracle. Whispers of awe swept through the attendees. Days later, she met Ella, whose child had been declared lost by doctors. Hope flickered when the little girl, once lifeless, sparkled with breath and laughter, as if brought back from the clutches of despair. Mary could hardly believe her eyes. Each story was a symphony of faith and divine mystery, filling the air with an undeniable presence. It felt as if angels themselves were whispering tales of loyalty and grace. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But not everyone shared Mary's vibrant faith. The village was tinged with skepticism. Whispers swirled like leaves caught in the wind. Coincidences, they muttered. Eyes narrowed. Yet, with every encounter, Mary felt the warmth of Saint Therese's spirit cradle her heart, igniting hope that bubbled within. Yet doubt clawed at her thoughts. Were these miracles evidence of divine love, or were they mere fragments of coincidence? One stormy night, as thunder rumbled like desperate prayers, Mary sought comfort at the shrine dedicated to Saint Therese. The small candles flickered as she knelt before the altar, tears cascading down her cheeks. Suddenly, a soft light enveloped her, the faint fragrance of roses blossoming around her as she felt a gentle hand upon her back. In that moment of immense vulnerability, warmth filled her soul, offering her both solace and a revelation that she could not yet decipher. The mysteries of faith danced in her heart like the light through stained glass windows. With each miracle revealed through the 12 women, Mary's spirit began to pulse with newfound determination. But questions still loomed. What would the future hold for her? And would she find the courage to dispel the whispers of doubt within her own heart? As hope surged within her, the fabric of her village hung delicately, teetering on the edge of transformation. The journey ahead promised both challenge and grace, leaving her restless anticipation for the next sign of the divine. The dawn broke gently over the village, bathing the earth in warm hues of gold and amber. Mary rose from her bed, a renewed sense of purpose swelling within her. The miracles of Violet and Ella were not just stories. They were beacons of hope, lighting her path through uncertainty. Clutching a small crucifix, she whispered a prayer, surrendering her worries to the Lord. Would she dare to believe, to embrace the extraordinary within her ordinary life? As she made her way to the church, she could see the village bustling with the chatter and laughter of her neighbors. They traded wary glances when they spotted her. Each step felt heavier under their judgment, yet her heart pulsed with the fire of possibility, ignited by the stories of the women who had walked before her. The sun filtered through the leaves, creating a mosaic of light, whispering promises of grace. When she arrived, the church filled with a familiar warmth, yet the air tasted different today. A charged anticipation lingered. As the congregation gathered, Father Michael stepped to the pulpit, his voice a soothing balm. With faith, all things are possible, he began, drawing everyone closer with his words. We are witnesses to the miracle of God's love surrounding us. Each story shared can uplift not just our hearts, but our community as a whole. Mary leaned forward, drinking in his message. She could feel her heart racing. Was it just excitement or something deeper? Her thoughts turned toward the 12 women, each an embodiment of faith and resilience. She wondered if they too had faced doubt and rejection as she had. Did they receive God's grace while still wrestling with the heaviness of disbelief? After the service, she felt compelled to approach Father Michael. Father, I've been witness to incredible miracles, yet doubt seems to linger in the shadows of my soul. How do I truly believe? Her voice trembled slightly, but the yearning within her shone through. His gaze softened as he replied, Mary, belief is often a journey through doubt. It's not the absence of questioning. It's the choice to trust despite those questions. The divine often works miracles just beyond our understanding. His words wrapped around her heart, casting out some of the shadows that darkened her mind. Fueled by determination, she knew she had to seek out each woman, to gather their stories not just as miracles, but as testaments of faith. This mission became a spark, lighting up her world. She called upon Mia, another of the miraculous women, who had survived an illness that left the doctors mystified. Each story shared seeped into the very fabric of their community. As Mary listened, she felt her heart aligning with the rhythms of grace. Each testimony was a thread weaving hope into the strongest fabric of loyalty. Yet, even amid this sea of faith, she became aware of the growing friction among her neighbors. Whispers of naysayers continued to swirl around her. The more she immersed herself in the stories, the stronger the urgency within her became. Thus, she began to gather the village together for a night of sharing, where everyone could experience the power of these miraculous accounts. Would they come? Would they believe? The night promised a reckoning of sorts, a chance to confront doubt with the light of faith. As she stood in the empty church, preparing her heart, an inexplicable peace washed over her. She closed her eyes and envisioned the gathered community. Would this be the moment of transformation? Feeling a captivating pull from the depths of her soul, she opened her eyes, fixated on the door, heart racing with anticipation. A spark of divine mystery beckoned. Would they all witness God's touch that night? And would her own faith finally ignite among them? Determined, Mary stepped forward, ready to believe, but what awaited her was beyond anything she could have imagined. As twilight descended, the village gathered in the church, its sturdy walls filled with an electric buzz of hope and uncertainty. Candles flickered like stars, casting soft shadows over the faces that were alight with curiosity. Mary stood at the front, her heart pounding, her spirit humming with anticipation. Tonight, we come together to share stories that defy human understanding, she said, her voice steady, yet trembling with emotion. These 12 women were lost in their darkness, but faith became the thread that wove them back to light. She paused, scanning the faces before her. Some were open, others skeptical, but all were present. The first to speak was Mia, her voice a melody that cradled the room. I was consumed by a sickness, she began, her hands trembling slightly. Doctors offered no hope. I felt abandoned, but I prayed. I prayed until my voice felt raw, and then, in one quiet moment of surrender, I felt a warmth fill me. It was as though God's hand cradled my heart. Days later, I walked out of that hospital, completely healed. The crowd responded with a ripple of soft gasps, a mingling of belief and disbelief, but Mary felt a surge of warmth around her, a sign of the miraculous stirring within the walls of the old church. Next, Hannah stepped forward. Her story flowed like a gentle stream, reaching the hearts of those listening. I was a widow, lost and bitter. Grief seemed to be my only company. Yet one night, alone in my room, I felt a presence, a whisper in my heart urging me to trust again. Days later, out of the blue, I met someone who saw me not just my pain, but my potential. She smiled, and in that simple act, released a wave of understanding. A deep hush fell over the gathering. Mary watched as small murmurs of hope lightened the atmosphere. Each story built upon the last. Each woman carried a truth that broke through the silence of doubt, igniting flickers of faith anew. Gilda stood tall as she shared her journey from despair to purpose. I felt invisible in a crowd for years, until I began to volunteer and serve others. Slowly, I found my identity in giving. In each act of kindness, I found a family within our community. God showed me that loving others is how we truly find ourselves. Then a young woman, Lucy, who had once been terrified to speak before crowds, bravely stepped up. I struggled with shame and voices that echoed my insecurities. But one evening, I realized God did not create me to remain silent. I took a leap of faith and shared my story. It was terrifying, but through that act, I discovered a purpose that was only beginning. The crowd leaned in, entranced by the shared journey of faith. Mary felt the momentum building, a divine pulse that knit them together within that sanctified space. Eyes lifted towards the altar, hearts began to beat in unison with the testimonies being professed. Then came a voice from the back, a visitor named Thomas, who often stayed at a distance, unsure of where he stood with faith. I didn't know what to expect when I came tonight. I'm not a believer. However, hearing your stories, it moves something within me. Maybe I'm yearning for hope too. Mary caught her breath. This was the moment she sensed would come. Faith was beckoning him beyond his doubts. Hope can start with a single step, she replied, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, Mary felt something shift, the air thick with the presence of something more, something that transcended their individual experiences. God was there, knitting their hearts together like a sacred tapestry. Yet just as she thought it was all aligning, a question pierced the peaceful atmosphere. A woman from the back of the church shouted, her voice sharp, "But how do we know this is real? What if you're all deceived?" A collective intake of breath filled the air, and Mary felt the tension rise. Dark clouds that had lingered began to rumble in her spirit. Yet inside, hope surged. Could belief truly emerge from amidst doubt? Would this collective fear block the miracle unfolding? Mary felt a stir, a call from within deeper than she comprehended. As the evening pressed on, she pondered these questions and sensed the divine mystery forming in the hearts of those assembled. Would faith shine through the darkness tonight? Only time would reveal the answer. The church stood silent for a moment, the weight of the earlier question hanging like a cloud. Mary took a breath, feeling the tension shift in the atmosphere. It was time to confront the doubt head-on. The warmth of faith that had ignited that evening needed to be fanned, not snuffed out. Doubt is the gateway to deeper faith, she said, her voice soothing yet firm. It's part of our journey. All these women standing before you faced their own moments of uncertainty. Each time they chose to trust rather than turn away. As she spoke, captivated eyes began to soften with understanding. Mary took a step toward the young woman who had raised the question. What if I told you that every doubt you have holds the potential for a greater revelation? Your heart is yearning for answers, and it's okay to ask. Thomas nodded, his brow furrowed as if tracing a line of connection. Mary felt a shift, a hope that could pierce through the shadows. The stories shared in the room were not just personal testimonies. They were seeds planted in the soil of doubt, waiting to bloom. The next woman, Clara, rose hesitantly. Mary could sense her struggle, the fear of sharing her pain. I was lost in addiction, she confessed, her voice wavering. For years I fought alone. I wore my shame like a cloak. But one night, a tiny flicker of hope led me to a meeting. There, I heard the voices of others, people who felt like me. They were just like me. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Clara's story stirred the hearts of those around her as she went on. With each day of sobriety, I reclaimed parts of myself I thought were lost forever. I couldn't have done it without those connections, without hope. A soul-deep silence enveloped them. Mary saw expressions change along the pews, faces softened by understanding, cheeks glistening with tears, hearts opening like flowers in the sun. Suddenly, an elderly man in a weathered coat spoke up, his voice a shaky whisper. What if the hope we cling to is just a fragile illusion? I've been through hardships and sometimes it feels like faith is nothing but wishful thinking. Mary's gaze met his, and she could feel her heart racing, but she remained calm. Sometimes, faith can feel like that, a fragile illusion. But remember, miracles often come in the smallest of packages. Consider a seed. It buries itself in dark soil and yet, against all odds, it rises, unfurling towards the light. A shuffling from the back of the church disrupted her thoughts. It was Lucy again, her voice gaining strength. I felt the same doubts. But when I spoke out, when I chose vulnerability over shame, God met me in that very moment. It was like standing in the rain when you've been thirsty for a long time. The crowd absorbed her words, the analogy hitting home. Mary felt the divine light flicker brighter amongst them. It was as if each testimony wove a colorful thread through the tapestry of doubt, and with every passing moment, a vibrant picture began to emerge, one of shared struggles, powerful transformations, and enduring faith. Let us not shy away from our doubts, she encouraged. Instead, let us ask God to reveal truth in our uncertainties. Let us allow Him to guide us, even when the path isn't clear. Can we agree this evening to question together, to seek together? A gentle murmur of agreement rippled through the congregation. Hope hung thick in the air. It felt almost tangible, like a heavy mist of grace settling over them. Yet, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. Could their collective searching lead to a transformation none had anticipated? How far would this journey take them? She sensed the Spirit preparing for something monumental, keeping the mystery alive just beyond reach. As the evening continued, they pressed on, each story leading them deeper into the heart of the divine. But as Mary looked into the faces before her, one question kept echoing in her soul: what revelation awaited, just beyond the veil of their fears? The energy in the room began to swell like a tide rising, each story stirring the hearts of the people gathered. Mary watched as new faces came alive, each revelation sparking something deep within them. The flow of faith was palpable, a living current igniting dormant embers into roaring flames. Then, a woman known to many in the church, Sarah, stood. Her presence exuded a quiet strength, and people leaned in, eager to hear what she would share. I was trapped in a cycle of bitterness, she began, her voice steady yet tinged with vulnerability. I couldn't forgive someone who had wronged me deeply. They ate away at me, until one day, I felt a surge of pain wash over me, a heaviness that felt like chains. I was tired of carrying that weight. Mary nodded, feeling the energy in the room shift. Bits of murmurs rippled through the crowd as they connected with Sarah's plight. In that moment of desperation, I prayed. I asked God to help me release my pain. I thought of all the times I had fallen short, and I felt His forgiveness wash over me like a wave. I realized I had held on to hurt longer than I needed. When I chose to forgive, I was set free. My heart began to heal. There was a hushed awe as Sarah's words hung in the air. Those seated exchanged glances, a shared understanding of the hardness that sometimes fills our hearts. Forgiveness isn't just a gift we give others. It's a liberation for our own souls. Mary smiled, feeling encouragement building among the believers. Sarah's story resonates deeply. It shows how within our doubts and struggles, there is always an opportunity for redemption. It's not about the weight we carry. It's about what we decide to do with it. God can transform our pain into purpose and our regret into restoration. As they sat together in contemplative silence, a ripple of laughter erupted from the back. It was Max, a young man whose journey had been tumultuous yet profoundly uplifting. I think I can compete with Sarah's story, he joked, drawing smiles from the crowd. I thought I'd never find my way out of my own bad decisions. He straightened, the twinkle in his eye unmistakable. Then, God led me to a mentor who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Those moments of doubt paired with someone's faith in me changed the trajectory of my life. The room filled with affirmations and nods, creating an echo of encouragement. Each testimony intertwined, forming a powerful web of collective resilience. With a glimmer of determination in her eyes, Mary raised her voice again with conviction. We're standing on the shoulders of each other's stories, And this is how we grow. We're not just here to receive. We're here to ignite faith in one another. These moments of honesty are precious, and they create space for divine surprises. Today is a beginning. As Mary surveyed the faces around her, she recognized the transformation taking place. Grief was lifting, hope was rising, and the promise of tomorrow shimmered like dew in the morning sunshine. But just then, a heavy silence fell again. A man, shy yet earnest, spoke from the side. How do we trust in moments when everything feels dark? When doubt wraps around us like a fog? The question hung in the air, challenging the group. The comforting warmth of hope began to trigger uncertainty, urging them to reflect on their own darkest moments. Mary felt an urgent stirring within. They had built something beautiful that evening, but could they face the shadows together with grace? I believe, Mary began slowly, her heart pulsing with truth, that the light shines brightest in our darkest times. You see, the next step opens to us only when we muster the courage to walk through the fog. What if we chose to step forward together? The congregation leaned in, the weight of the question pulling them deeper into the night's spiritual truth. With every heartbeat, the possibility of revelation loomed closer, waiting to unveil itself in that charged atmosphere of faith and uncertainty. Could they harness the strength of their collective doubts for divine transformation? What awaited them was still shrouded in mystery, but one truth remained: they were not alone on this journey. As the weight of the man's question settled in the air, the silence became a sacred space. Mary felt a stirring of courage in her heart. It was both intimidating and exhilarating. How could they embrace that darkness without fear? She had seen firsthand the incredible resilience born from shared struggles, and she sensed that the next chapter was about to unfold. Let me share something. A voice chimed in, cutting through the silence. It was Emma, a woman who had quietly listened all evening. Her eyes sparkled with conviction as she leaned forward. In my own life, I faced a deep despair that engulfed me. I lost my job, my sense of purpose, and for a time even my faith. I wondered if I would ever find the light again. The room hung on her words, hearts entwined in the exploration of vulnerability. When I hit rock bottom, instead of isolating myself, I reached out to God and to my brothers and sisters in faith. I attended prayer meetings, shared my fears, and leaned on their support. It was through their prayers and encouragement that I began to see glimpses of hope. I realized that being together in darkness was not about hiding our pain, but about embracing it together. Nods of agreement rippled through the congregation, each face illuminated by the flickers of understanding. Sometimes we need to walk hand in hand through the fog. I learned that my darkest moments became a path to discovering God's presence. It was then I felt a divine loyalty, a loyal love that wrapped around me, filling in the cracks of my brokenness. Mary's heart soared at the thought of divine loyalty. It was a lighthouse in a storm, guiding their way. Emma, that's beautiful. The light of companionship sheds hope on our shadows. We must remember that God places us in each other's lives to help us see His reflection even when we can't see it ourselves. Encouraged, several more voices joined the chorus. Each voice brought a patch of light to the community fabric, a shared testament to how love flows through trusted hands during trials. They spoke of mothers who prayed fiercely for their children, friends who never turned away, and mentors who lit a spark when all felt lost. The vibrant energy of connection grew, creating a pulse that steadied the room. The hesitance morphed into a lively exchange of support, vulnerability, and divine assurance. It was becoming clear that their togetherness had the power to overcome any darkness. Then, Daniel, a quiet man in the back, raised his hand again, his expression serious. But what do we do when fear threatens to pull us back? Even with support, it can be hard to let go of that fear of failure or fear of what lies ahead. How do we keep trusting? A hush fell over the crowd once more as they pondered his words. Mary felt the question hang heavy, but she also felt the stirrings of hope and divine intervention. We remember, she replied softly, her voice steady, that every time we take a leap in faith, God stands ready to catch us. That's the essence of grace. It's not that we one fall, but that we are lifted up, time and time again. Trust ISNTA destination. It's a journey we navigate together. The room infused itself with quiet resilience, each heartbeat echoing a renewed sense of purpose. In that moment of connection, they were united in a tapestry of faith as the night drew closer to its end. Mary invited everyone to take a moment of stillness. Let us sit together in that quiet. Let us listen for what God is revealing in our hearts amidst this darkness and the silence. The flickering candles cast dancing shadows across the walls, drawing them into a serene intimacy. Each breathed prayer felt like a step toward divine revelation, an unveiling of truths yet to come. But just as the room settled into that sacred tranquility, Mary sensed a divine current, a whisper beckoning her to share something even deeper. What if there were stories of extraordinary women in their midst who, too, had faced darkness and emerged glowing with heavenly loyalty? As they immersed in prayerful silence, one question looped through her mind. What truths were waiting to be shared with the world? And as each heart resonated with the weight of her thoughts, the promise of a new unfolding began to shimmer, teasing at the edges of their communion. Would they dare to uncover the miraculous stories standing on the brink of revelation? The hush deepened, wrapping itself around them like a soft cloak. Mary felt that tugging in her soul, urging her to speak as the stillness pulsed with anticipation. She looked around the room, embracing the faces of trust and hope. They were ready, hungry for inspiration and truth. Tonight, she began, her voice like a gentle stream. I believe we can share not just our fears, but our victories. Each story we tell illuminates a part of God's great tapestry woven together, reflecting His glory even in the shadows. Let us invite those extraordinary women to step into the light. A soft murmur rose, encouraging her to continue. Mary's heart swelled with admiration for the courage in the room, for the openness that seemed to birth an undeniable magic. Let me tell you about Rachel, she said, her eyes sparkling. Rachel faced rejection unlike any other. Each job she interviewed for slipped through her fingers, leaving her feeling unworthy. The weight of her failures pressed down like a heavy fog, dulling her spirit. But then she remembered she was a beloved daughter of the King. With every no she encountered, she turned to God in prayer, renewing her faith and her sense of purpose. And one day, her perseverance bore fruit. She found the job that was meant for her, where she could shine. Light rippled across the room as Mary finished. A few members wiped tears, their hearts warmed by the reflection of loyalty and grace. Encouraged, she continued. Then there's Esther, who fought fiercely against her fears of sharing her gifts. She used to question if her voice could make a difference. But when she finally stepped out and sang at a local gathering, it was as if angels had poured down, carrying her melody straight to heaven. Her fear melted away, replaced by the joy of using her gifts to uplift others. Eyebrows lifted in disbelief and awe. Others began to whisper, seeing the truth in Mary's words as they recognized parts of their own stories in the unfolding narrative. Each tale wove a thread of connection, some sharing stories of women who faced abuse and emerged stronger, while others celebrated those who had battled illness and found new purpose. They could feel the warmth of heavenly loyalty binding them, pulling them closer, revealing the beauty of their shared scars. What about you, Sarah? Mary turned to a quiet woman in the corner, her eyes bright but restrained. Have you found a way to break through during your hardest moments? Sarah hesitated but then found her voice. For years I struggled with anxiety. Felt like I was living behind a wall, invisible to the world. I finally chose to lean into prayer, not just for relief but for understanding. God took my trembling heart and showed me how to step into the light, one breath at a time. Today I'm leading a support group. It's like night has transformed into day. In that moment, everyone leaned in. The collective breathing raised a palpable energy in the air. The sound of gratitude filled the room as they recognized the thread that connected each story. As the evening drew near its end, the flicker of hope burned bright. They had gathered not only to share their darkness, but to celebrate their resilience. Each story like a star in the vast expanse of night. What a beautiful gift we have in each other, Mary said, her voice echoing the sentiment of the room. As we stand together, we echo what it means to be loyal, to love fearlessly, and to shine brightly. I invite you now to think of how you can each honor and uplift the women in your lives. And in that moment of reflection, a soft wind seemed to sweep through the gathering, whispering divine secrets into earnest hearts. They all sensed it, the beginning of something greater. Could they, as a community, step deeper into the stories that awaited them? What would reveal itself beyond the veil of their shared experiences? As they lingered in anticipation, Mary felt that familiar divine current beckoning once again. Would their shared loyalty unlock stories filled with miracles and grace still to be discovered? As silence enveloped the gathering, Mary's heart began to race. She could see the flickers of curiosity sparking in every eye, the anticipation thick enough to slice through with a knife. The air shimmered lightly, pregnant with potential and divine promise. What if, she pondered out loud, we could delve even deeper into our stories? What if we tapped into the essence of our trials, the very core where miracles are born? Her voice carried a warm, electric charge that set some hearts racing with excitement. Not waiting for a response, she moved to the center of the circle, invigorated. Let us journey to a place of revelation. Sometimes our greatest moments are hidden beneath layers of doubt. Perhaps, like a pearl, we must endure the discomfort to find our worth. Grace's spirit soared as she spoke, coaxing shy smiles from faces once dampened by struggles. Let me share a story that transformed me, she said, recalling her friendship with Anna. A woman whose life appeared shrouded in a veil of darkness, a recent widow struggling to navigate a world she no longer recognized. With every phone call I made to check in on her, I felt her heaviness. Each time we talked, she would apologize for her tears and her sorrow, insisting they were burdens I shouldn't have to bear. But through those conversations, God showed me something incredible. Each drop of Anna's sorrow was like rain nurturing the seeds of her heart. Together, we discovered that speaking her pain was the first step to healing. The room filled with a soft light, one where the divine mingled with the real. Faces glowed with understanding as murmurs of shared experiences rippled through the audience. It was a reminder that vulnerability could be the pathway to healing for both Anna and Grace. In that moment, the atmosphere shifted. It felt like angels were dancing just beyond the veil, sprinkling drops of hope and healing. Mary scanned the room, noticing the women leaning closer, some nodding in agreement. A wave of energy flowed between them, binding them through their communal recognition of pain and recovery. Isn't it beautiful? Mary beckoned softly. When we share our stories, the fear dissipates. We connect and our hearts grow bigger. Isn't it through loyalty, our commitment to witness and honor each other, that miracles thrive? Tess, who had seated herself near the front, raised her hand. I've been struggling with feeling unseen. Like my efforts to help others were falling flat, her voice trembled with unspoken fears. But hearing all of your stories reminds me I am seen. My struggles matter. Yes, Tess, Mary exclaimed, feeling the spirit swell. Your honesty strengthens us all. See how the more we open ourselves, the more God's light finds its way in. It's the essence of His love. Each woman present felt a prickling in her soul, that sweet moment when grace unfolded, revealing new layers of community and devotion. They recognized that in their vulnerability was power, each testimony breaking chains of isolation, forging bonds within the sacred circle. Mary urged them onward, encouraging each to speak on their journeys, their moments of divine grace light enough to eclipse the shadows. With every shared story, every heartfelt word, faith swelled, a responsive tide washing over fears and doubts. Let us not hold back, she said, almost breathless with excitement. What else is hidden in these stories? What treasures await our discovery? Together, we can grasp the fullness of God's love through each woman's path. As the night deepened, Mary knew this was just a step on a broader journey. She sensed a shift, an unveiling about to unfold. What deeper truth awaited them as they ventured further into the woven fabric of their faith? And in the quiet, a question lingered in the air: what other pieces of grace would they uncover in the stories yet to be shared? Would these threads give birth to new miracles, stitching their community into a tapestry of hope and healing? As they settled deeper into the circle, a hush fell over the group. Mary could sense the women's hearts, each beating with its own rhythm, yet harmonized by the shared intent to discover more. It was palpable, a unity, a divine chemistry, almost as if something magnificent was about to break through. "Let us invite the Spirit to speak freely among us," she encouraged, closing her eyes for a moment. The energy crackled in the air like static, leaving traces of warmth dancing on their skin. There was a holy promise nestled within the atmosphere, waiting to unfold. Anna, the widow whom Grace had shared about, finally stood, trembling with vulnerability. "Can I speak?" she asked, her voice shaky yet bold. "Of course, dear," Mary smiled gently, clapping her hands softly to encourage Anna's flow. Anna took a breath, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "When Grace reached out to me, I felt lost. I couldn't see where I was going or who I was anymore. I thought my sadness was a burden to her," she admitted, glancing at Grace. "But sharing my pain became a lifeline, a way to find myself again." She paused, allowing the room to breathe in her honesty. "One evening I found an old photo of my late husband. I felt the ache, but instead of pushing it down, I let myself feel it fully. With each tear, I spoke to God, pouring my heart out. And in that moment I sensed His presence so strong. It was as if He sat beside me, saying, 'You are still loved. Your grief is real, but I am here always.'" A murmur of understanding swept through the women, some nodding as they identified with Anna's experience. There was unspoken recognition of their own shadows. "I realized," Anna continued softly, "that grief is not a straight path. It's messy and twisted, but it connects us to something so much greater, transforms us. In those depths lies a well of grace we often overlook." As she spoke, a tangible sigh of release filled the circle. Hearts swelled and eyes sparkled with unshed tears, like dew on the morning grass, calling forth a collective healing. Mary stepped back, feeling the Spirit move. "Yes, each time we dare to be open, heaven nudges closer. Isn't this what loyalty to each other truly means? We bear witness to the miracles growing in us all." A voice rang out from the back, a young woman named Sarah, whose face glowed with fresh insights. "I've always believed my journey had to be perfect. Straying felt wrong. But now I see how God meets us in the messiness. My imperfections, my struggles, all these are part of my story, and perhaps they're meant to encourage someone else." "Absolutely," came another voice. Joan, a mother of 3, raised her hand. "I've been suffocating under the weight of expectations. Suddenly, it feels refreshing to embrace where I am, flaws and all. God can still weave my story into something beautiful, even if I don't see it yet." Mary's heart danced. Each story, each layer peeled back, revealed the intricate tapestry of faith woven among them. There was true power in their shared vulnerability. As the night lingered on, they shared not just pain, but also joy, reflection, and laughter, a bittersweet communion, a holy exchange. They discovered layers of faith interlaced with hope and a profound sense of purpose, even amidst uncertainty. Soon, the whispers of new revelations filled the air. What new stories await us? Mary found herself asking, her curiosity alight. What deeper layers of grace might yet come to pass? With hearts collectively blooming, they knew their evening was just the beginning. What paths would their faith lead them down next? A new adventure beckoned. What divine transformations awaited around the corner? Just as dawn broke over the village again, a gentle light filled the hearts of Mary and the women gathered in the church. It felt like God had kissed the ground with hope, every fiber of their being charged with possibility. They had shared their deepest fears and celebrated their strongest joys, but now something felt uniquely different. A thread of divine loyalty began to weave them all closer together. As Mary stood before the congregation of expectant faces once more, she could sense the divine presence guiding her. "Today is not just about stories," she began, her voice firm yet tender. "It is about embracing the truth that God's promises never fail, that miracles bloom from our trials, and faith transforms our shadows into light." With each word, she saw the flickers of belief ignite, like flames catching breath in the cold air of dawn. Violet, the first woman Mary had encountered, stood and spoke. When I danced in the church that day, I felt more than the joy of healing. I felt a connection like every woman here caught a piece of my miracle. As she spoke, the heartwarming memories of all 12 women flooded back, each a beacon of hope against the cynical backdrop of disbelief that had once surrounded them. Mary smiled, her heart swelling as she absorbed the strength in their unity. Yes, our stories intertwine, Mary exclaimed, inviting others to reflect. Each of you has taken ownership of your journey, and together we are creating a movement of faith. The audience leaned in. There was this unmistakable pivot, a click, like a key finally turning in a locked door they had not realized was closed. Next, Ella stood, her eyes shimmering with quiet strength. I believed I was merely a vessel of my child's survival. But observing the love shared here, the way each woman pulled together, reminded me. I wasn't just a mother. I became a part of something divine. As we share our trials, let us remember the bond we forge is the heart of miracles. And with these words, the air thickened with emotional resonance. It empowered every woman in the room. Tears fell softly, as one after another, voices broke free from shackles of despair, and light broke upon the darkness that once held them bound. Little Lucy, with her once fearful heart, raised her hand as she stood taller. Each story I heard inspired me to plug my ears to shame and listen to love instead. When I sung my heart out in the gathering, I felt alive. We started believing in ourselves together, and finding my voice set me free, she sparked, igniting cheers and applause from those who recognized their own silent spirits reflected back in her, and just like stars emerging from a dark night, a swell of expressions began to blossom. Mothers, daughters, friends weaving their own individual truths into the collective tapestry they were creating together. Yet, as warmth poured across the church, a man from among the crowd, Thomas, who had watched quietly until now, stood again. How do we carry this outside these walls? How do we keep this momentum alive? His longing for a lasting shift resonated deep, and Mary felt the pulse of God rallying behind him. By living our faith like a flame, igniting paths for others to join, Mary replied passionately, her voice unwavering amidst the attention. Transform our stories into testimonies that touch those who still linger in shadows. We have tasted hope. Now let us serve it to those still lost. As the hushed awe settled again, a profound understanding breathed life into the community. They would carry their light into the world, leaving renewed spirits wherever they tread, each act of kindness becoming a miracle of its own. And so it was. That day marked the beginning of something deeper than individual testimonies and miracles. They birthed a movement of faith in their village. They prayed, gathered, and inspired each other. Together, they started a ministry that brought in women from across towns, sharing messages of hope, laughter, and healing. They became a sisterhood, a family of divine loyalty, where each woman could be real, vulnerable, and unapologetically loud about their faith. Mary marveled at how far she'd come. Her own journey transformed from doubter to beacon of light, interconnected with these extraordinary women, each of whom was unraveling the threads of heaven's promises through their resilience. The doubts that once loomed so large faded in the face of such divine love as they left the church. Hand in hand, stepping into the vibrancy of the sunny day, Mary turned and spoke softly. Our stories won't just change us, they'll change the world. And together, they stepped forward, ready to witness the miracles unfold, inspiring many others to walk in faith, dispelling the shadows with their radiant luminescence. The urgency of this moment burned brightly. This was just the beginning. And as the last echoes of their laughter floated across the hills, Mary whispered a prayer of gratitude. God had done far more than she'd ever imagined, so I urge you now, don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories that can inspire you. Your support matters. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. I want to hear your thoughts. So comment below about what this ending means to you and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation today. Only true servants of God understand the power of community and spreading His love.